is between Paris and St. Petersburg, and the first 5 rounds are going to be played in Paris, and today we are witnessing the second round. My name is Dirk-Jan ten Geuzendam. I'm the editor of New in Chess, and with me today is my friend and good colleague Jan Timman, Grandmaster from the Netherlands. Welcome, Jan.
Yes, glad to be here. Yeah.
The stage is still filled with photographers, and they have their 5 minutes to take their shots, and the players are making their first moves. We have 5 games today, Jan. It's difficult to pick out. Well, it's easy to pick out one. I mean, I would say that Aronian Kramnik definitely promises a lot after the recent fights they had, but of course all the others are interesting as well. Jan, you arrived here yesterday when the first round was being played. Did you still manage to see something of yesterday's round?
Yeah, of course. This morning I immediately, yesterday evening, I already checked all the games that were played. It was very spectacular.
It was an unusual opening of the tournament with several upsets, and
well, the most upsetting game was, of course, the loss of Anand against Adams, especially because he lost for twice now within a year with the white pieces, and both games had the characteristics. They were just some positions with only one open file, the D file, where nothing much seemed to be the matter at first, and then suddenly Adams outplayed Anand. So it happened twice.
Yeah. Well, and let's say in the first game in London, you could say, well, it was this one moment when Anand allowed a very strong shot by Black, and then everything was gone. But here you had the feeling that at a certain point he lost his way in the game, and then, I mean, Adams really outplayed him.
Yeah, that was very surprising. Actually, I had the impression that Anand was trying to look for some advantage, and he probably did have some advantage at first. But once, when he lost the advantage, it went very quickly, and Adams was very, very accurate.
Yes. So now we have to see if they take the after feelings of that game in today's game. Mickey Adams is playing Peter Svidler, who played a draw yesterday, and Anand is pitted against young Nikita Vityugov with Black, which may not be so easy to bounce back. So
no, certainly not. I think this tournament is too strong to expect to immediately bounce back with Black if you lose a game with White.
Yes, it's you mean the general strength is so even that there are no weakies that you go after to take a point.
It's a very attractive field of players, I must say. I also like the participation of Ding Liren. I was actually very surprised yesterday that Aronian made such a mistake, such a positional mistake. He must have had some bad feelings about the position. I don't know. It happened also in London that he somehow lost his way with Black, especially. And otherwise, he's very convincing.
Yes, and then do you have an explanation for that? It's I mean, he was one of the clear favorites in London, and for a long time he also played that role successfully until things went wrong. What do you think went? I mean, Garry Kasparov said that he believes that he is psychologically not stable enough. Is that something you subscribe to, or?
I don't know. I would put this slightly differently. I would say that he couldn't stand the tension. That is something slightly different from psychological matters. I mean, of course, it may be a psychological matter, and it is very. I mean, the two explanations are very close to each other. I mean, you're just becoming nervous, and then your psychological situation is becoming worse. But I think that nervousness is always one of the main problems in such qualification tourneys. I remember that I played in Montpellier in 1985, and towards the end of the tournament there was very much tension. Not so much at the beginning.
I see. Yes. Well, let's have a look at today's games. We are following the French TV director in the choice of the games, and he has pointed his camera at the game between Maxime Vacher-Lagrave and Ding Liren, which is definitely a game to look forward to. These two youngsters, and what have they got?
Yeah, it's a very interesting and sharp opening so far. I must say that I don't trust the position at all for black.
Maybe you can briefly go through the moves. Yeah?
Yes, okay.
So, you switch off the receive moves.
Yes, I will go through the moves. It starts e4.
Yeah.
And it's Caro-Kann, d4, d5, e5, bishop f5, h4, and h4 is of course a sharp move. I was also faced with this move personally when I played in Wijk aan Zee against Grandelius, and black has two principal choices here. I mean, he cannot play e6 because then his bishop is simply trapped.
Yeah.
On f5. If you play e6, then you play. I will show that what happens. Something terrible. I mean, e6 would be the normal move, but you get g4, and the bishop is attacked. Now go here, then you go h5. You can go here, then you play f3.
And that was the end of the bishop.
Yes, the bishop is just lost. So that is a big problem, because normally you want to play e6 after bishop f5. So you have the basic choice between h5 and the move, and h5 has the idea to play e6 next and to keep the bishop on f5, and the other idea is h6. This is what I played also against Grandelius, but the main idea of e6 is to retreat with, after g4, to retreat with the bishop to d7 after g4 is played. But in the game this went differently. After h6, g4, Ding Liren played bishop e4, and I must say that I have never seen this move. And I don't trust the move either, because normally in this position you don't keep the bishop on this dangerous diagonal. What I played against Grandelius was bishop d7. There are different. There are many games. I mean, it was played by Botwinnik against Stahl, just to mention, in the match in 1961, and Botwinnik was successful. With bishop d7, black tries to prove that this advanced pawns on the king side might just be weakness for white instead of attacking force. Yeah. So basically, the move bishop e4 is very surprising.
So and what do you think is the idea behind that? Does he?
Well, first of all, bishop e4 has the idea that to provoke f3, and white must play f3 because otherwise black plays e6 and he's very fine.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, he wants to develop apparently, but look what happens. It's very strange. I just go.
So he
has played bishop e4, f3, bishop h7, e6, and actually this is considered to be very good for white, but he just played knight f6. And after bishop f4, now black is thinking.
What is considered to be good for?
I think in general this position is not considered to be playable for black, as far as I know. So I'm very curious what's going to happen. Ding Liren is a very sharp player. I also saw that in some other openings. He has a very sharp taste for variations. He plays quite unusual variations. He's a very interesting player. He hasn't played any big tournaments yet, but he has been very successful in Chinese championships. Yep. He's basically at the moment, together with Wang Hao, the most promising Chinese player. It's a very good choice to have him here. Yeah. He beat Aronian in a very interesting way yesterday, but what he's doing today, I think, is doubtful.
And what is the problem that you think he has in this position?
In general, the position after white has played this move e6 is that that you don't. Let's see. This I get all sorts of colors now on the board. Yeah.
Those are too many colors.
Yeah, just too many threats and squares.
Yeah.
But of course the pawn on e6 is crucial.
Yeah.
The point is, if black takes that pawn, the bishop on f8 cannot develop.
Yeah.
So black cannot complete his development, and I'm very curious how he's going to play this game in general. I mean, it's not just about one move, but to see what his plan is.
Yes.
And so far I don't see it. I think that basically if I had this position with white, I would be very happy. If I had black, then I would be very pessimistic.
Yes. And that's quite early on in the game.
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
It's very unusual, that you get this so early on. Yeah.
Now the camera has switched to Vladimir Kramnik,
Yes.
who today is playing Levin Aronian. And well, if you just think back to London, where they had two enormous clashes. The first game was drawn where Kramnik had white and had he was probably winning, I guess. Very complicated game, and then the second game was also an incredibly wild game with enormous complications.
Yeah.
I remember at one of the press conference that they reached a position where Aronian said, "Yeah, here I thought I was winning," and then, much to his to our surprise, Kramnik said, "Yeah, but I thought I was winning too in this position." So in the end, it should have been a draw, but then Aronian made a bad blunder in the end game. So that
but actually both players are by nature quite optimistic, I must say. They're very good chess players, very optimistic in general, and they believe in their own class, and for good reasons.
Well, that's
basically
something which you should recognize, Jan. I mean, that's how we...
Yeah, that is of course also quite good. It helps you if you're a top player to be optimistic. Yeah. I think you shouldn't be a pessimist. That doesn't help you at all.
So what opening have we got in this game?
Yeah, this is actually what you said about London is true, and the truth was in the middle. The game was actually drawn, but this is because Kramnik overlooked a very interesting line that white could force a draw. He didn't see that line. And Aronian saw that line, but he was looking for more.
Yes.
He believes his position promised more.
Yeah.
So but the truth was in the middle when they made his claims.
Yes.
Okay, now we have the what they call the semi-classical line. So this is what Kramnik has played before. He's playing this knight takes d5 here. Doesn't play the Tarrasch. If you take with the pawn, then it's the Tarrasch. And he has played this before, also in London. And this is a normal type of position. He had it against Swietler. That was slightly different, but this is a well-known position. What shall I say? Rook c1 is unusual. The usual move is bishop c4, and there is a famous game between Polugojevsky and Tal from the Soviet Championship 1969. I will not repeat this game, but normally in that particular game, Polugojevsky chose to later develop, he castles later on, to put his rooks on the most central lines, that is on d1 and e1.
Yes.
So now already Aronian is not interested in this example, and he puts his rook on c1, and the idea is to put pressure in a different way on black's position.
Yes.
And I don't know exactly why rook c1 is probably an accurate move, because he wants to see whether he wants to develop his bishop to c4, to d3, or even e2. And after b6 he decides that it's good to develop it to d3 to protect his e-pawn.
Yeah.
So this looks all quite normal. I think we have by transposition a position that has been played, must have been played dozens of times. And so we have an opening position that is considered to be slightly better for white, but of course this is a position that doesn't promise that much, because the question for White is always, should he play on the king side for a king side attack, let's say with h4, with e5, or should he try to play positional with a4 and a5, try to start a minority attack on the queen side.
Yeah.
That are the two positional options.
Yes. Were you surprised by Kramnik's superb performance in London? That he was playing so well, that he found the motivation to fight for the highest crown again, and put so much effort in it?
No, I was not surprised at all, because I have seen Kramnik since the early 90s. The first time I played him was in 93 in Linares, and in 94 I already understood that he was a really strong player.
Yeah.
And he's not even 40 yet, so why wouldn't he get better? I mean, of course he had maybe some psychological problems, maybe some problems with his health before. Now, once he gets over that, then he can show his class. He's an excellent positional player. He can calculate very well. He knows what to calculate. No, I was not surprised at all.
And but then let's say the next question for this tournament was that he did so well in London, and then it ended in such a deception at the end. Then how are you going to take your good form with you to this tournament, or will this blow that you have to deal with at the end, will that affect your play?
Just a little bit, I think, not much.
Yeah?
No.
You think that
No, I think his overall play was so convincing. Okay, you have a situation, a must-win situation with black against Ivanchuk. That's a terribly difficult task, because Ivanchuk is one of the great players. Yeah. And I think in general, I don't think that you should play the way Kramnik does, because he played a pitch defense, and if you want to play and you have to win, it's better to have enough counter balance in the center. Let's say to play either the Sicilian, or maybe just even e5, although of course I understand that in the Ruy Lopez, I mean, your chances may not be so big to win, but if you have a cramped position, it's basically impossible to play for a win. If you give White the center, which you do in the pitch, well, then White is just too comfortable. And that is what I believe was, in my view, is a mistake. And I had this in the past, because I also had such must-win situations, and after some bad experience, I understood I shouldn't play that sort of lines. I shouldn't play pitch openings. I shouldn't.
If you really want to win.
Yes. You have to play Sicilian. I mean, Kramnik used to play the Rouser very well in the mid-90s, and he could have tried to play that.
But you played the pitch for a long time.
Oh yeah, sure. No, of course. I mean, there's nothing wrong with playing the pitch. I mean, I could still do it. And once I also made a very good draw against Okopian in 2004 in Wijk aan Zee with the pitch, and I was very happy with that game. But it was not a must-win situation. It's different.
Yes. Well, Kramnik used it a couple of times to beat so-called weaker opposition into.
Well, he beat Smeets, with black. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. But that is true. Under certain circumstances, you can do it. But I mean, Ivanchuk is a great player. I mean, when you give him the center, I mean, it's already a bit much. I mean, it was because of the tension of the game that Kramnik later got chances. Yeah. But actually, only chances to make a draw.
Yeah. Well, the director keeps his camera pointed at Kramnik's game, although it's clear that it may take some time before a further move will be shown. Maybe we should turn our attention to Anand's game.
Yeah, sure.
That he's playing black against Nikita Fichugov, who lost to Kramnik yesterday, and will definitely hope to do better with the white pieces today. So what do they have in their game?
Yeah, that was a Nimzo Indian. Very interesting. Yeah, they play the Nimzo Indian, and that is of course Anand's repertoire. He also played, of course he played against Galford last year in the World Championship match. He played the Slav, and then at some moment he switched to the Nimzo. And it's a repertoire of a lot of top players. It's my main repertoire. It's also Kramnik's main repertoire. Fityugov plays knight f3, b6, and now of course the crucial move is to switch to some Queen's Indian type position with bishop g5. But Vityugov played e3, and now you switch to the Rubinstein variation. But here knight e4 is an accurate move, because if you don't play knight e4 but you just play without thinking bishop b7, White develops his bishop to d3, knight e4, and he doesn't have to protect the knight on c3. He can just sacrifice a pawn on c3 castles. And so this is the most accurate move. Bishop, the queen c2 is forced, and now bishop b7, f5. And this is a principal positional battle for the square of e4.
Yeah.
Black must take on c3 to keep his knight on e4 and castles.
Yeah. And this is a position that has been seen tons of times.
Yes, and I saw that actually in this position in the last Bundesliga, Erwin Lamy with White played the old move knight d2 and actually won very quickly against a German master. But I believe that knight d2 shouldn't give White any advantage, but Black has to be accurate.
But isn't that the overall conclusion, that the Nimzo is just a healthy opening? And
yeah, I think that if I would get this position with Black, I let's say would be happy.
Yeah.
Because you have no well, I mean, positional problems. I mean, the Nimzo in general is aimed at controlling the e4 square and restraining White's center, and you have done this in the best way actually so far.
So Black has nothing to complain about, but White wants to prove something. What can he do?
Well, he played the move c5, which is also has been played, although I don't know the exact details of c5. I mean, the move is understandable. You want to get rid of your weak double c pawn.
Yeah, because that's very often what happens, that if further on in the game you are still stuck with that pawn on c4, that's an easy target for Black.
Yeah, if Black, let's say, would have the chance to play the move c5, for example, it would be quite a good move to play. And now Anand, he took on c5. That is not necessarily the best move.
But still, it's probably...
But probably it is it's preparation, of course, yeah. But I mean to say is you don't have to take on c5, because if White wants to take on b6, I mean, I would say be my guest with Black, because I take with the a pawn, and then his pawns are not, his structure didn't improve. Another plan here for Black, in my opinion, would be to play bishop a6. And the idea is to exchange the bishop on d3, and this probably has been played, I don't know. But that's another plan. But maybe Anand didn't like the fact that after an exchange on a6, his knight on a6 is not very well placed. But that's a positional idea. But b takes c5 is of course a crucial move. That is what he did, yeah. And then White played rook b1. That's of course the idea, because you sacrifice a pawn temporarily to get pressure on the Black position. And bishop a3, well, of course, I think in general White shouldn't be worried about this pawn down, being this pawn down. He'll probably get it back. But in such a position, the dynamic forces are most important. I mean, it's a matter who gets the initiative in this type of position.
Yeah, and that can be well worth a pawn.
Yeah, sure. It depends. Yeah, it completely depends what Black is going to do now, and I think Anand is taking his time.
Well, that gives us the opportunity to look at the game Freycinet-Gelfand, for instance, which we haven't looked at yet.
Yeah.
And see how that is developing. Yeah, it's the top one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you see the position and you understand where it comes from.
Yeah, this position I don't have to play the first moves, because this is just a normal position from the King's Indian. And well, you can also get it from the Reti opening.
But from the Grunfeld, I mean, or
the reti. Yeah, just because you can play c4, c6, and then later d4. But I mean, the move order is not so important. But normally you call this. Yeah, you could also call it the Grunfeld Indian, where black plays c6. Yeah, true. Yeah. So you can actually call this three different things, but mainly King's Indian or Grunfeld Indian. Yeah. And Queen a4 is the move.
And the Grunfeld is the opening that Gelfand prepared for the World Championship match.
Yeah. And well, actually, yeah, that is true. Queen a4 is. I think that there are three moves here that are normally played, and that is the move knight d2 to protect the c pawn. That's one move. b3, well, the same idea. But these two moves have the main drawback that black can put his knight on e4 and play bishop f5 and get a comfortable game. So queen a4, and now black plays knight fd7. Unusual, yeah.
That is an unusual move?
I've never. Well, I think that queen a4 is a bit unusual, and knight d7 is, let's say, a logical reaction.
Yeah.
Because you threaten knight b6, so you force white to do something.
Yeah.
Now he plays queen c2, and then white tries to prove that this move knight fd7 was only disturbing black.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, he takes on c4, queen takes c4, and in this position, yeah, it depends. In general, Fresina is a well-prepared player. He depends a lot on his preparation, and he is also very versatile. With white, he can play e4, he can play d4, and he hasn't done very well in any great tournaments, but for a long time he has already a 2700 plus a score, and together with Vagela Grave and Bacrau and also Edouard, he's already a top player in France for well, many years.
Yes, yes. So what is his what is the wish for black here, to play e5 as soon as possible, or prepare that?
Yes, I think that the two main ideas is to liberate either with e5 or with c5. Both are quite common ways to liberate. I mean, if white manages to keep his pawn on d4 and prevents both these pushes, both e5, e7, e5 in this case, and c6, c5. Yep. That case, if you, let's say, if he can put his bishop on f4, rook on d1, and his knight out and rook c1, let's just give an example. If he can play all these moves unhindered, then he's doing very well. Then he can slowly improve his position because he has the center of the pawn on d4. But now I'm really curious how black is going to do, whether he's going to play for c5 or d5. Let's see what he did. Still thinking.
Well, that gives us the opportunity to go to the last game we haven't looked at yet.
Yes.
That's Mickey Adams against Peter Svidler.
Yeah. That's yeah. Adams, it's interesting because he played e4. Nowadays he's also playing c4 systems and d4 systems. And that is actually something that he has done now for a couple of months. And so that is an interesting switch, because all his life, and he's already a top player for a very long time, he swore to e4. And also this game, his first white game, he plays e4.
Yeah, he's one of the great e4 players. I mean,
yeah, but he has been quite successful with c4 and d4 recently. So that's an interesting switch for someone who's already over 40.
Well, maybe it's a breath of fresh air if you switch to a new opening at some point.
Yeah, yeah. But then it's you have a better repertoire. It's more difficult for your opponent to prepare.
Yeah,
and that has a lot of advantages. So I think that he did very well.
Yeah. So what kind of real opus have we got here?
Normal real opus, very quiet one.
Well, this is the amazing thing that, let's say, not that long ago, people started to play d3, well, just to get away from theory. And now, in those systems, I mean, an entirely new theory has developed,
Yeah.
and with lots of subtleties and move orders, and
Yeah, that is true. I mean, the move D3 in itself is an old move. I mean, it has been played also in the 60s. But indeed, at that time it was already a sign that white players wanted to avoid specific variations. For example, well, you avoid some variations like the Marshall attack.
But wasn't that at that time, did you say, okay, you play D3, let's say 20 years ago, it means, come on, let's just play. And this is no longer the case, because there were so many games have been played in these systems.
And a whole new theory has been developed here. And you see here, this system with A3 instead of C3 is to preserve the square on C3 for the knight, and to have a retreat with the bishop to A2.
Yeah.
So here actually it's funny, because now the game gets a different character. It's more like, let's say, 4 knights.
Oh yes. Yeah.
It's more like a 4 knights than a real Ruy Lopez. And all these moves are good, normal developing moves. And the move on knight E2 is also quite okay. The idea is to put the knight on G3.
Well, this should be interesting to follow, because, let's say, both Adams and Sweetler, they are such incredibly experienced E4 players and have such experience in the Ruy Lopez that...
Yeah. But Sweetler himself is also a player who can play both. So, of course, he was mainly an E4 player in the past, but recently, also in London, he concentrated a lot on playing D4 and developed some really, good ideas in certain openings, especially in the King's Indian.
Yeah.
But now they're both experienced. So for them, this may be a position that they both like to play with white.
Yeah. Well, a lot has been said and written about the tournament in London, and many people they feel, or they claim, that some sort of a new trend was set there. I mean, chess was given a kiss of life again. There was wonderful play to be seen there, and people feel that, well, this was what we were seeing yesterday as well. Does chess follow such trends in being attractive or less attractive?
Yeah, that's true. But it's true that London was really a very interesting tournament in many ways, and it showed that this format is very successful, and also it shows that that in chess it's not possible when you're black to get an easy draw, also not for top players, and sometimes it's not possible for white to keep a game after you made a mistake, which we also saw the first round here between Anand and Adams, because I think that Anand made only one demonstrable mistake, and then he was lost. He got outplayed.
You mean to say that, well, these days the level is so high. I mean, you make one mistake and you can be in really bad trouble.
Yeah. I think of course the level of play is quite high. Yeah, true. Yeah, although it's very hard to compare it with the past, of course.
Yeah, this is what we briefly touched on this morning when we met at breakfast. Is that yesterday I was talking to Alexander Grischuk, and one of the things we were discussing were favorite players, and then Alexander said, well, maybe a bit in a challenging manner, that he didn't understand that Boris Gelfand was such a big fan of Rubinstein's, because he said Boris is a much better player. And then when we talked about that this morning, you said, well, I don't think you should look at it that way.
Yeah, it's true, because what Grischuk means, and I understand him, is that in Rubinstein's games, as the same as in Alekhine games, Euwes games, sometimes they made terrible mistakes. They didn't understand certain positions. On the other hand, if they did understand the positions, and this also happened a lot, they played on a very high level. And I think that if you, let's say you would compare Gelfand and Rubinstein, and then just take, let's say, 20, 30 games of both, favorite games of theirs, and then it's not so clear who's the better player now.
Because you forget about these occasional, well, big mistakes which are based on a lesser understanding of positions that have...
Certain positions, yeah, true. On the other hand, I think that under the pressure of the clock also today's top players can make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I think that in London it was quite clear that Kramnik till the last round made a less amount of mistakes, lesser than any of the others.
Well, I talked to Vladimir about that, and he said, well, people were praising my play in the second half so much, but I don't think that I started to play better. It was more, well, he agreed with the comparison with the 100-meter sprint, where the runner who manages to keep his pace, or I mean to keep his pace as much as possible, is the one who will win, because all the others are bound to start to run slower. And he said it was the others who started to make more mistakes.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. But on the other hand, I think that he took his chances slightly better in the second half than the first half. But what was very important, what was impressive, was that he didn't take any risk. He was not in danger. I find it very impressive in such a 14-round tournament. I mean, okay, the last round he had to take risks. There was no doubt about that. But as long as he could avoid that, he was always in control of the situation.
Yeah.
This was not the same with Magnus Carlsen.
No, it's Vladimir. He was, well, in an amazing manner. He was untouchable.
Yes, he was very impressive, and I was not surprised about that. I think that normally, if he has found his right form, he can always do that.
On the other hand, you might say that probably Magnus Carlsen, he took a bit more risk, and that was, well, for instance, the problems he got into against Radjabov, that you could blame that on well, taking more risks, or...
Well, I think that he was somehow... there were 3 games that he played really badly. That was the first game against Radjabov, and that were the 2 games that he lost.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that he just misplayed the game against Radjabov, and he was completely lost, actually. And he was very lucky to escape there. On the other hand, I mean, he played very risky, and sometimes this pays off. Sometimes he manages to confuse his opponents.
But on the other hand, he also makes very, very few mistakes. Yesterday, the Alekhine Memorial that will be held in Paris and St. Petersburg saw a fascinating first round that promises a lot for the rest of this spectacular tournament. In a packed hall, people were queuing outside all afternoon, and the hall was fully filled all the time. The audience saw 5 very entertaining games. There were 2 draws, one between the 2 French competitors, the numbers 1 and 2 of the French ranking list, Maxime Vacher-Lagrave et Laurent Fressinet, where Fressinet showed excellent opening preparation and neutralized White's initiative, and there was a draw in the game between Peter Svidler and Boris Gelfand, who after a lively tussle ended up in an endgame that offered no chances for either side. The big sensation of the day was the win with the black pieces by Michael Adams from England against the world champion Vishy Anand. And it was even more spectacular because this was the 2nd time in 6 months that Adams beat the world champion with the black pieces. The first time was in London last December. Another upset was the win of young Chinese Ding Liren against candidate Levin Aronian. The Chinese player got a promising position from the opening when Aronian misplaced his white squared bishop, but then at some point, exactly when the game seemed to be level, there was a unique opportunity for Ding Liren to decide the game with a lethal mating attack. The 3rd decisive game was a win by Vladimir Kramnik against his countryman Nikita Vichugov. Kramnik seems to have taken his excellent form from London to Paris and won a wonderful game. He achieved a slight plus from the opening, kept pressing, and in a position where many people thought that Fichikov had good chances of survival, the former world champion showed his great class and outplayed his opponent to score his first victory. So now, after one round, there are 3 leaders. There's Vladimir Kramnik with 1 point, there's Ding Liren with 1 point, and there's Mickey Adams with 1 point. And after this promising opening day, we can only look forward to the second round, which no doubt will feature further great games. Je zit, de deur is opengeklapt.
Oh, dit is...
Yeah. Yeah. And welcome back to Paris. Welcome back to the second round of the Alekhine Memorial here in the Louvre, or close to the Louvre in Paris. My name is Dirk-Jan ten Geusendam. I'm the editor of New in Chess, and with me here is my colleague and good friend Jan Timman, Grandmaster from the Netherlands. Welcome again, Jan.
Okay, yeah, pleased to be here. Yeah, sure.
And well, maybe it's interesting for people who didn't listen yesterday, or haven't checked out on the websites where we are sitting here. It's because it's not exactly in the Louvre as was announced, but it's on the grounds of the Louvre in the Jardin des Tuileries. Which is the park immediately next to the Louvre, and here a beautiful marquee has been erected, and that's where the tournament takes place. It's in a beautiful corner of the gardens,
and it's near the Place La Concorde. Yeah.
Yeah. It's if you go outside here, you see all the landmarks. You see the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, well, the Louvre, obviously. And this corner of the park is, or the garden is called Le Carré du Sanglier, which is something like the quarter of the wild boars. So apparently, when France still had kings, they would go here or in this area to hunt for wild boars.
Long time ago, yeah.
That must have been some time ago. Yeah. But apparently, some of the smell of these wild boars is still here, or some of the ferocity, because on the stage here there's some good fighting chess going on, and particularly in the game between Maxime Vacher-Lagrave and Ding Liren. A very sharp battle is being fought, and maybe we should have a look, Jan. What's the situation at the moment? Have they made any more moves?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they made moves. So black played a6. I just showed that to show that that he was going to put his queen from b6 back to a7, and white forced him to do that. And I explained that in this particular position you shouldn't play bishop c7. It looks very tempting, but then black has the reaction b5.
Yeah, you think you're going to bury the queen, but in fact the queen is going to eat you.
So he did something else, and that is the other move to come to b6 with a piece. That is knight a4.
Mm-hmm. That is what he has played.
Yes, and now black has a thinking, and he has an interesting choice.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, he can just keep his position intact by not sacrificing anything and playing b5.
Mm-hmm.
Then white has knight c5. It looks like white has good compensation here for the pawn. I expect black to play something else, that is to take on e6. F takes e6. And if white plays knight b6, then just to play knight bd7 and give the exchange on a8. And this is also a very interesting sharp position. Black has given the exchange, but he has two pawns, and actually the position is still very unclear. I mean, there are a lot of possibilities, but I think that actually black is doing well here. I have the feeling...
You think there's enough compensation for the exchange?
Yeah, because here you have positional IDs like b5, you have positional IDs like c5. I don't see any target for white to play for. So
and once you play c5, you also get e5 in.
Yeah, I believe that actually what Vajay Lagrave did is certainly not the refutation of this unusual opening system of black, and I believe that is all started when he developed his bishop to f4. Queen b6 was a very good reply then.
Yeah. But in any case, the way the game is proceeding now is well, it's going to answer our questions, because it's a crucial idea if white reaches anything, if he takes the exchange or not. So
yes, sure, yeah. But yeah, on the other hand, I see that white has other options. Let's say he has played knight a4. Now, if you play f takes e. The other option is not to play knight b6, but to play knight c5. And the idea is now rook takes b7. So if you play b6 or b5, and now to take on e6, this may be the better option.
And then this knight on e6.
Yeah, you still will go to after king f7. You still will play knight c7, knight bd7, and now. The situation is slightly different, but this still I believe this is one pawn for the exchange, but still okay for black. I'm looking for other options for white here. Maybe he can try to play some surprise move here, knight d8. I just look at some really wild variations. But after king e8 he will have to return with the knight, and the question is black play king g8, but it may not be that good. So this could be a repetition of moves. I don't know. Of course, there are a lot of other possibilities, but Ding Liren hasn't played this actually. He has played differently. He has played b5.
But it also shows that, well, no matter how they proceed, and even if pieces are exchanged, I mean, it remains very sharp.
Yeah, but I think that this may also be possible. I think that now the knight has moved to c5, and if you take on e6 now, white is not going to take it probably. But on the other hand, if black doesn't want to take on e6, he has the move a5 here. With the idea to bring out his knight to a6. This may be his idea. Just to wait and see what white is doing. This is I mean, in general, all what black is doing is very provocative, but it may not be that bad.
Yeah.
It looks like a5 is the most logical move, although the position is not very logical. In that case, I could also imagine that white is trying to keep this knight on c5 to maybe to move the other knight there. You could think of something very unusual, like knight c1, knight a6. Just give some examples what can happen. Knight takes. Now the other knight comes to b3.
Take on d4, no? In between.
Yeah, this case you. No, what I try to say is that probably you have to. But if you play this here, then you can also. That's a problem because d4 is hanging. Then you have also a4. So I don't see actually how white should counter this idea with a5. I don't know. He hasn't played this yet, but it looks like it's in keeping with black strategy so far. Since he cannot develop his king side, he has to look for other ways.
Yeah.
Maybe here white can really try to push his a pawn.
Mm-hmm.
That may be a better choice.
Yeah.
Because
It's always when you see this kind of unusual moves, and then you're tempted to think, is this modern chess? I mean, would you call this modern chess, or is it?
I don't know. I think that modern chess is. I mean, there are different type of games. You can see some very classical modern games here today, and you can see some wild games.
Yeah, so it's more unorthodox than.
Yeah, but I think in general, I think players nowadays are, let's say, more willing to enter sharp positions because they're used to work with a computer.
You think that has improved their calculating skills?
I think in general, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I see now that a4 is white's reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you play knight a6 now, then you will be in trouble, because takes on a6, and queen takes, and then a takes b5, and this is very weakened for black. So probably then black has to play b4, and now you can prevent this whole idea with knight e6 by moving the knight, for example knight g3. So this may be white's idea. And I'm curious how black is going to develop. This is why I believed that he would take on e6 before, instead of b5. But of course, that's very little to say about the position. It's very unusual sharp.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we should have a look at Vichikov's game against Anand. We haven't been there for some time.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that was the Nimzo-Indian. The positional struggle for the square on e4, and then it evolved in the positional struggle mainly on the queen side. So we are here. We left actually the position when Anand was thinking about the position after bishop a3.
Yes.
So he unpinned his pawn on c5 and played rook e8. Logical. And white took it. And now he played knight a6, and that is clearly aimed at taking the c5 pawn.
Yeah.
What can we say about the position? Probably white has to do something very active. I would say that Vichikov is thinking about this position. No, they played some moves.
Oh no, it's
Oh, there. Oh yeah, he took on a6.
Yeah.
I don't know, I was thinking about the move like c6, bishop c6, and then knight e4, but maybe this is too slow. So he wanted to keep the c5 pawn, and he gave up his bishop. In general, I think that this position is simply good for black. I don't see any reason why it would not be good for black. And in such positions, the white squares, the light squares, are somehow good for black. I mean, his bishop is good, and white, of course, can also create some play by playing c4 and putting his bishop on b2. But I believe that this should be quite good for Anand, and he may have good hopes to have at least a draw this game. He has played his move bishop b7. Put his bishop back on the long diagonal. That is, of course, completely in keeping with the position. And I don't know exactly what I would recommend for white here. I think that somehow this game doesn't change any views on this system in general. That black is fine.
Yeah, it doesn't really challenge black's setup. I mean.
Not at all, no.
So, okay, maybe that's something that both of them are not unhappy with.
I don't know. Vichikov is a very active player in general. He's quite a good player. He won the Gibraltar Open this year.
Yeah, and you mean he would like to use his opportunity to play well against the world champion? Yeah,
of course. He doesn't have that much experience in top tournaments. I remember that he played once in Reggio Emilia, this 1.5 years ago, and he didn't do very well. And apart from that, he hasn't played any real top tournament. So he played, of course, like many of the young Russian grandmasters in open tournaments, and he did that successfully.
He played the Russian Super Final, didn't he?
Yeah, just of course. But I'm talking about international tournaments. He played, of course, in Russian championships and also.
Do you see a difference there? I mean, is it different to play in an international, well, let's say, mixed tournament from playing a very strong national tournament?
Well, I think so. For a young player, he has to get used to these international tournaments because they have a different atmosphere.
Because it's not because you don't know those people so well as you know your own.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
that makes a difference.
And not only that, but in general, an international tournament has a different atmosphere than a national championship. There are different kind of players. There are other things at stake. There's international prestige is at stake.
Was that what brought out the best in you? I mean, the international stage?
No. I think that I just believe that in both in the national championships I could also play good games. Yeah. But I think the international challenge, of course, it was more challenging. Yeah. And probably I played my best games there, but I also like to play the Dutch championships. Nowadays it's not attractive anymore because the financial conditions are too bad. I mean, you see that we have beautiful events here, like this great tournament here in Paris, but our Dutch federation is not so successful in finding sponsors.
Yeah, well, in this case, probably the players should be grateful to Mr. Timchenko and Mr. Filatov, who support this and, well, give the Russian Federation the opportunity to organize this so splendidly.
Yeah, I think they're doing very well. Yeah, I must admit that. I mean, we really need this in chess to have such great sponsors.
Well, maybe this is well, let's say maybe this is clearly the old Russian tradition of the love for chess and its culture and what we're seeing here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yes, it's very pleasing to see that. Yeah, that we keep this tradition in place, but especially to have a tournament in Paris because that hasn't happened. Also, not in the past for some reasons.
Well, I remember you having quite some success in Paris. I mean,
yeah, the Immopire. Yeah.
You had one of your nicest, well, successes in your career in the Immopire Trophy here.
Yeah.
In which theater was that played?
We played in the Champs-Élysées theater, and we had a lot of spectators. It was 1991 when I won it. There were, I think, 1,200 spectators.
Yeah. Yeah, those were wonderfully organized tournaments. They were rapid tournaments.
Yes, but very well organized also, and big screens. You could also you could follow the games.
Yeah. And I have to think. I know you beat Kasparov in the final and Karpov in the semi-final.
Yes.
Who were the other victims?
Kamsky and Anand.
So that was not.
That were the four favorites for privé tournament favorites that I beat.
Yeah, you just spoiled all their chances. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was very kind of you. So, but that was a wonderful tournament.
Yeah.
So what else have we got? How is Peter Svidler doing against Mickey Adams in their Ruy Lopez discussion?
Yeah. Let's check that. Yeah. We see that the position that the A file has been opened, so that basically not much is happening there.
Yeah, all the contours of the Ruy Lopez are still there.
Yeah, and Black has actually found this way to play D5. It's actually funny, if White doesn't aim for a quick D4, you see very often that Black plays D5.
Yeah.
But his center is more difficult to keep than White's center of the D4. Because he doesn't have this natural protection of his e-pawn. And White normally has a natural protection of E4 when he plays D4. But on the other hand, that makes it more difficult, but you could say that Black has a slight space advantage, but he has to keep E5, and White has the A file. In general, I believe that this is slightly better for White, this position, apart from some details that Black may equalize.
Yeah, so in fact, black achieves what he's looking for. He gets in d5, but that's not the end of the story, because
White keeps the pressure.
Yeah.
And that's basically because he has no good way of defending his e-pawn in a very solid way.
Mm-hmm.
If he would succeed in defending this e-pawn permanently in a solid way, then he would have a very fine position.
Mm-hmm.
But then, for example, his knight should not be on c6, but on g6.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, and then it's already much better.
Yeah.
Because the knight on c6 is not a very good defender.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a stable piece.
Yeah. And also the white squared white bishop exerts considerably more pressure than his black counterpart.
The white managed to keep his bishop on the right diagonal.
Mm.
That's the best, the Ruy Lopez diagonal for the bishop.
Mm.
That normally ends there, and yeah, his other pieces are also quite good. So I would actually like to play this position with white. Yeah.
Mm. And well, the cameras are aimed at Laurent Fressinet. Almost has his chin on the board. That's how concentrated he is at the moment in his game against Boris Gelfand. What is going on there?
Well, not so many moves have been played. We had this discussion earlier on about whether black should play for e5 or c5.
Yeah.
Gelfand actually chose to delay his position in this, and he played knight b6 just to develop his pieces in a normal way, and then play for one of these two pushes.
Yeah.
He develops his pieces, and he thinks, well, later on I will choose whether I'll play for e5 or c5.
Yeah, and for the moment he doesn't have any real weaknesses himself.
No, now he developed all his pieces except the rooks. And he comes with knight b4. Now the idea is that the queen, white's queen, is a bit uncomfortable. I think that Gelfand in general is quite good in this type of position. It's this very classical type of position where you see all positional values, all positional calculations. That is one of his best things, and also his aim to play active chess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, follow his principles.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. That's what we discussed yesterday. I mean, it's been said very often that Boris, he is such a traditional chess player. He sticks to his convictions. He both on and off the board.
Yeah.
And he will. I mean, he will not really surprise you with an opening, but he will just tell you, okay, let's play my opening again. I will show you once again that it's a good opening.
Yeah. He's a very consistent player.
Yeah.
You see, what can happen in this position is a bit tricky. I don't know whether white played the right moves. Whether it was good to develop the move, the knight to c3, because now he doesn't have so many squares for the queen.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if he plays queen b3 here, you have a5, and there's already the threat. The arrow is already pointed there. Bishop e6 is the threat.
Yeah, you don't have time for a3 to...
No, let's say you play a3 and something terrible happens.
Yeah.
You already have to give a pawn with d5.
Yeah.
So that's something white has to watch out for. So that means actually that the queen is not comfortable b3. On the other hand, if you play queen b3, a5, you can move, let's say, this knight away, maybe. But then you move it here to e4, and that doesn't look very normal to do that. I mean, it doesn't look very sound. So I think that maybe here in this position, he really will have to move the queen to d2. On the other hand, it's not a bad move, but I don't know. He played queen b1. That is also possible, but I didn't want to propose it because it looks a bit odd. He played queen b1. Yeah.
But why does it look odd? I mean, if Ding Liren can put his queen on a7, then he surely can put his queen on b1.
Yeah, but that is true. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, yeah. But let's say, I mean, that's very often a move bishop f5. Of course, bishop f5, e4, bishop g4, and then he can play a3 and push the knight back. So maybe
he has
it's
this useful tempo.
It's the correct move. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it doesn't look so good for White in my view.
But if he's in time to push back tonight, then he should be fine, shouldn't he? Or
yeah, but I still believe that.
I mean, nothing to write home about, but.
Yeah, but I believe Black has different moves he can try here. But Queen C8 is also the idea of Queen C8 could be to play Bishop F5, E4, and then Bishop H3, for example. The other idea is just to put the rook on D8 and then put pressure on D4.
Yeah.
And after A3 he can play knight D5.
But in any case, one can say that Black has no real opening problems, or solved the problems that he may have had.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's just Black. The position is fairly equal, right?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, we look at Vishy Anand, who's playing Nikita Fichugov. What's going on there?
Yeah, let's have a look.
And as we mentioned yesterday, I mean, Anand is playing a lot this year.
Yeah.
Much more than last year. He now plays here. Then he's going to Norway, to Stavanger for the Norway chess tournament, which will be a very strong tournament with Carlsen and Aronian and Anand and Svitler and then after that he will go to the Tel Memorial in Moscow, which is another super tournament.
Yes.
So do you think that's the right approach, that if in his preparation for the World Championship match, just play a lot of strong tournaments?
Yeah, I think for him it is good to play all these tournaments because he was a bit rusty, I believe, that when he played Galfand he didn't play enough. And for him it's good to play.
Yeah.
Even if he has some setbacks. I mean, he played well in Baden-Baden. He played well in Wijk aan Zee, we shouldn't forget that.
Absolutely.
And he started badly here, he finished badly in Wijk aan Zee, that were the two games he lost. But in general, he's proved that he's doing well, and he recovered from his weak period. Last year was disastrous for him.
But do you think he really recovered? Because when I was discussing this yesterday with Alexander Grishchuk, he said, well, it's clear that in the past years Anand's level has dropped considerably. And I mean, leaving a question mark if he could really recover his old strength. How do you see that?
I don't know. For me, it's hard to believe that that is somebody who's played so well in Wijk aan Zee. He played some really good games there. Okay, I understand that he's getting a bit older, and for example, he missed a win against Hu Yifan in a simple ending, and it shouldn't happen to a world champion. There's some other examples. Maybe he's getting a bit older. But I mean, I wouldn't say that he dropped it, that his level drops. I cannot believe that. Yeah. I still believe that somebody who makes +3 in Wijk aan Zee and then wins the tournament in Baden-Baden, that he's still really at the top and maybe slightly less strong than he used to be. But he had, I must say that he had other periods where he didn't do so well. Some years ago he played some bad tournaments also in Dortmund, where he couldn't win a game. So it's hard to say if he really drops his level.
But what is let's say the problem that he's struggling with? Some people say, well, it's physical shape, that it becomes more difficult to be physically fit. Others say, well, it's simply your brain that gets slower. And of course, his brain always was extremely fast. So
yeah, that's possible. But on the other hand, you shouldn't forget that people who have been world champions, sometimes they lose their motivation. They don't have the same motivation like Korchnoi had all his life.
That's an additional problem to keep your appetite.
I think that's the main problem for him.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And that's why he plays a lot, and I would say that's a good idea.
You don't think that he...
But on the other hand, what he did yesterday, I find that's hard to explain. Really. I mean, he was really not not the Anand that we know.
But then, of course, the next question is, if you find it hard to explain, please explain.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets a slightly better opening position from the opening, and then suddenly in, well, what is it, 5-6 moves, he loses his way, and then suddenly he's with his back against the wall.
Yeah.
How do these things happen?
That again, yeah. It's not that he had recovered, but this is somehow not in the schedule of recovery. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, and you thought you thought you could get away by saying this is very hard to explain, but now you have to explain, yeah.
No, I meant, well, maybe he's getting old, yeah.
That's the easy way out.
Yeah, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
I also play some stupid games sometimes. Yeah, I can also play well, but yeah.
But
you get older, yeah.
But is that what you feel at those moments? That let's say you play a game, you play it very well, and then suddenly, well, something goes wrong. Do you have the feeling that at that point your brain is simply playing tricks on you?
I cannot. No, the problem is this. I mean, you get older, and normally that type of position you play better than what he had against Adam. So actually, my whole explanation, you forced me to explain something, was not very efficient. I mean, it was not. It was not sufficient.
I forced you to get into trouble.
Yeah, because that was at that moment the only explanation I could find. But actually, I was not happy with it because I noticed myself that, of course, I can go wrong in some position. I can overlook simple things that has been happening already for quite a long time. But on the other hand, if I get a position that is simple, technical, no, well, I'm very happy. And normally I don't make mistakes because I understand that type of position. But so that's a bit difficult because if you overlook something terrible, I mean, like he did also maybe in some other games, that you really overlook something. Okay,
that can happen.
Yeah, that can happen more easily when you get older. That you have somehow a block somewhere in it. But in general, I think that what he did in Wijk aan Zee and also in Baden-Baden was quite good. I believe that that was the old Anand. Yeah. I mean, to make plus, okay, we are somehow misled by the scores that Magnus Carlsen makes. I mean, he had such a great score in Wijk aan Zee, 7 out of 10. But I mean, it's not a normal score. I mean, if you make +3 in such a company, that's an excellent score.
Yeah. No, that's true. It was clear that Anand was on his way back there, and well, he showed further progress in Baden-Baden.
But this is a bit alarming, yeah, that he played like this against Adams, I must say. Also, if you think about his match against Magnus Carlsen.
Because, well, let's face it. I mean, still he's a very young man. It's
everybody is very young, yeah, in my view.
It would be weird to call Vishy Anand an old man, and I think that if he works on his physical shape and he gets the right motivation, then he's still an awesome opponent, of course.
Yeah, I don't know, but do you think his physical shape could be better? Maybe, yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, but does it matter so much? I mean, yeah.
I don't know. That's that's another point for discussion. I think. Well, what do you think?
To make long walks in Paris would be the right idea.
Yeah.
When I played this tournament in '91, I made very long walks in Paris. And that did it for me. It was very good.
Yeah, you mean long walks that was enough? You didn't have to do any weightlifting or?
No, not to the gym. No. Although sometimes I must admit I do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't. I feel tired afterwards. You know, that's a problem.
Well, but it should stimulate your cardiovascular system, and that's what they say seems to be good.
Yeah, but you're still very tired if you do that. Yeah, that is the drawback.
Yeah.
It's much better to take a glass of wine or something.
Well, in any case, it's probably the physical training you shouldn't do during the tournament, but before the tournament.
Some people do it during the tournament.
That's risky.
For example, my friend Ivan Sokolov, but it didn't pay off in Wijk aan Zee, I must say.
No.
Probably it's too cold to do all this jogging there. Yeah.
On the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now we're talking about older people, let's have a look at the youngsters and see how Dingley Wren and Vachela Graf are progressing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they got us enthusiastic right from the start with their very sharp game.
Yeah. Aha, yeah, some things happened, yeah. So that is actually interesting, yeah. So we go back here.
Yeah.
I was wondering what Black wanted to do.
So he jumped in on c5 and he went bishop.
Yeah, this move bishop g8, what does it remind you of? Which player played this in the Caro-Kann?
This is Karpov.
No. Bronstein.
Bronstein.
It's a famous game of Bronstein against, what was it, in the late 50s, against, was it Vogelmann maybe, or something? I don't know exactly against. No, that was this Italian master. Just name some old Italian. Porreca maybe?
Porreca? Not Paoli?
No, Paoli.
I don't know.
The older generation. The game from Olympiad, yeah. And he played in the...
Marinetti or something? Or, I don't know.
Well, you had Mariotti. But
Mariotti.
But I don't mean Mariotti. That was later.
Yeah.
I mean older than Mariotti.
Okay.
Yeah, but some Italian master. And in an Olympiad, I think it was in Leipzig or in Munich, 58. And he played the move bishop g8 also to protect the e6 square in the Caro, but he did it to prepare e7, e6. But here it is played also to protect e6. But on the other hand, well, yeah, the bishop is not so bad on g8, yeah. Probably it was more active on h7. But now, let's see, he's threatening knight takes e5. White can jump to g6, but then he will take on e5.
I must say that my first thought when you said which grandmaster does this remind you of with these bishops there was Bobby Fischer. I thought it looks like Fischer random.
That is what you mean. Yeah. That could also be an idea. Yeah, that is. Well, actually, Black hasn't done very well with his development. But on the other hand, he's threatening knight takes e5. So that leaves White actually. It's still a very confusing position, I must say.
Well, it would be
very confusing. I don't know. I think that for me also Dingley is sometimes a player that is hard to understand. Really.
The decisions that he takes, you mean?
Yeah, I think that actually he didn't have to. Okay, the bonsai move is always great, but on the other hand, I don't see why he didn't want to give the exchange and play a normal position. Now he probably has to do something funny, yeah? Because if he takes on e5, d takes e5, the rook has to go to h7, or otherwise. And then White, let's say, plays bishop d3, and he doesn't get out there. So suddenly I feel that this is good for White. And I like Black before. I think the Bronson idea was here somehow wrong, because he was not in time to put his bishop on f7. Now once this knight is on g6, I don't see what Black can do. If you take on e5, of course he takes with the pawn, and that fixes the whole thing there.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, let's say you have to play rook h7, maybe you take on e5 once, but White can also strengthen his position with h5, with bishop d3, and once you have to take this knight on g6, but then you're completely incarcerated with both pieces on the king side. What to do? I don't like it. Yeah, maybe. No, I don't see it. I really don't see why Black played this way.
Okay.
But maybe there is something that I don't understand. But really, I suddenly feel like I would love to be white again.
Uh-huh.
So, and it has changed actually, this position. Some moves ago I wanted to be black.
Mm-hmm.
Before that I wanted to be white. So it is.
You have to make up your mind, John.
I'm neither white or black, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting game, I would say.
Yeah. So, but you thought it was in 1958, this Bronstein game?
Bronstein against.
Because I was checking and.
Bronstein is black, yeah.
But at the Olympiad, in Munich Olympiad.
I think it was in the Olympiad. Did he play against?
Did he win?
He won, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let me see. Palmiotti, no,
That's another one. Yeah.
Maybe could it be the Leipzig Olympiad, or maybe
Leipzig was
1960?
Let me see if that's. Why is that not here?
Where's your Leipzig Olympiad?
Oh, okay, I'll check. So
Yeah.
let's have. A look at the other. Well, we are still watching Ding Liren.
Yeah, he's still thinking about his move knight g6.
Mm-hmm.
This game of Granda against Ivanchuk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, let's say if you have this pawn on f4 instead of d4, white's then of course the rook shouldn't be on d1, of course, but then white's advantage wouldn't be so significant. I mean, the danger for black, because then it's just a majority. But here it's a problem with the two central pawns that pose a problem for black, and that force him to play very accurately.
Yeah. And well, you were talking to Vladimir Turkmakov. Vladimir Turkmakov, well, he used to be a very strong Russian, Soviet player. He played on the Russian team when they played against the rest of the world, and he became a very respected trainer. He's been trainer of the team of Azerbaijan, and
yes, sure, yeah.
So
the first time I played him was in Reykjavik, 1972. Yeah, so long time ago.
That's always the interesting things with the chess players. They are your head is full of not only full with games, but also full of dates. And,
yes. Different dates like the computer has, but yeah, true.
Yeah, and if you if we have another look at the game that we all started with, the Vashela Graf Ding Liren game.
Yeah,
it's so interesting to see if you look at the position now. And it's almost something for a quiz to say, well, from which opening did this position arise?
Yeah, well, actually, this quiz question is not so difficult, because I think you could clearly state that this is typical position for the Caro.
Yes. How would you decide?
Because something has gone wrong for black. I mean, in the advanced variation of the Caro.
That's what you see.
I would guess that, yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wonder what's going to happen. Yeah.
So then I'm lucky that I didn't tell you what the prize was for this question, and I can.
What was the?
Well, I'll think of something cheap now.
No, I mean, I thought you had a very nice bottle of wine.
We make it a glass.
Oh, only a glass. Okay. What can I say? My only defense is, I would have guessed it if it was a question.
Okay. But what is your opinion on the position?
I think it's hopeless for black.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think that white has just to break through somehow. Although that may not be that easy. Because white is 2 pawns down. And if he would be 1 pawn down, he would break through very easily. But black has some pawns there.
Yeah. He has all his pawns.
Yeah. No, but I mean, especially this. Yeah. He would rather not have this two e pawns. For example, without the e7 pawn, black was completely winning.
Yeah.
Just to give an example. Also, without the e6 pawn, he was completely winning. But he has his 2 pawns, and he has to live with it.
Yeah.
And so actually basically his rook on h7 and his bishop on f8 are out of the game, and they're just controlled by one knight. And if he takes on g6, he doesn't improve his situation, because then white plays h takes g6, and then he can only play h5, and then you still have no rook and bishop.
Yeah, if you exchange there, then the bishop on f8 would be less than a pawn. It's just in the way.
Yes, actually, yes, that is true. Actually, then the only question, I mean, but sometimes in endgame, although these pieces cannot move, can be useful, because to keep white restricted. So let's put it this way. But I mean, you can even think of positions where white is endgames. Just rook, and I mean, I can easily give you a position. The white is a rook and a bishop down, and he's still doing well.
Yeah,
that's possible.
Is this the study composer in you that wakes up when you look at this kind of position?
No, not only study composer, but also practical player. I mean, for example, in this position, white to move, I would consider a move like bishop takes b5, just to give an example, just to give a bishop and to open the position.
Yeah, because all the black pieces are well,
you have to break through.
Yeah,
and you can just afford to give material. So it's
well, maybe that's even
well,
what can black do if
let's play
yeah,
it.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Bishop takes b5. I rather not play rook takes b5. That would be a bit flashy. He takes b5. Rook takes b5. Now,
okay.
You know, actually, you are through. I mean, you open the position, and the idea is just to play rook b1, and then just to do some things on the queen side, maybe to give two rooks for a queen, and then to happily see what you can do against the other pieces of black.
But now maybe no.
What do you do? Could be quite a good move. Bishop takes b5.
If you get a, can he hide his king on e8?
Well, then you have to do some tricks. I don't know. First of all, you have to probably you will play bishop e8. This may be the drawback of this.
But you have knight f8. Yeah, but that you
no, I don't.
You don't mind. You don't mind.
No, I don't mind. You know, I don't mind.
No.
Now, probably it's. I was a bit enthusiastic, and he can probably get his bishop to the queen side to c6, and okay, that's a big piece on c6. So this bishop e8 may be a problem for white.
Yeah. Although I would taking on f8.
Although I would even consider to play this move here. Okay, now I just give you an example.
Now you're going for the bottle of wine.
Yeah, that may still we get a bottle of wine if I sacrifice the whole rook. Interesting.
Yes.
Look, whole rook down, but white is probably better here.
Yeah, it's the queen joins, and then.
But okay, I must say, Ding Liren really asked for it. He had to give up this e6 pawn, give up an exchange. And
in fact, this is an incredible position, Jan. If you.
Yes. You asked me when I was study composer here. Well, no, I'm just.
You composed them just like this.
Yeah, just like this. Yeah.
Oh, this is
probably c4 is a good move. Yeah.
This is amazing.
It's still an interesting position, I must say this. c4 is a good move because this queen is actually quite strong. Maybe I was a bit too enthusiastic about all this. Yeah. Interesting still, actually, of the queen. e2, king e2 here. Very interesting position.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know whether he probably not play this, but I mean just to give an example what white could do. There may be a better way to break through, I don't know.
But let's have a look at the game that we've been neglecting a bit so far.
You see actually that here I see a comment by Sipke Ernst, who the grandmaster, and somebody noticed that I think with perfect play white should be winning, and Sipke Ernst believes even bad play should be sufficient. So he believes even if white plays badly, he should win.
Okay, okay.
That is an opinion.
That's an opinion.
Yeah,
yes.
I don't know whether that's true.
Yeah.
I think with bad play normally you don't win.
Yeah, there's something bad to be said about bad play. Yeah. There's a game we have been neglecting a bit so far, which
Adams
is the one Adam Swittler.
Yeah, but I believe that Adams is still a lot better. Black is still under pressure. You see, he has put his rook on e6 and then his bishop back on e7, but the pieces are still tangled up. The pawn on d5 cannot move. White's knights can jump. Let's say now he is already, this is a typical Ruy Lopez maneuver. The knight from e2 going to g4 to exchange the knight on f6, and then d5 is weak. And yeah, black is really in trouble here. I see also moves like knight f5, queen f3, sometimes bishop takes h6. All sorts of problems here in the position.
Yeah, and the threats are becoming quite concrete. I mean, knight g4 is a concrete threat.
And actually it's interesting because if Adams wins, it's a big if of course, then he will be leading 2 out of 2.
Then, well, and he would have 2 magnificent scarps.
Yes.
Because Peter Swittler has been playing great chess of late. And I mean, he was very impressive in London.
And he's back in the top 10, Swittler.
Yeah. And as Alexander Grishuk said rightly yesterday, if that game that he failed to win against Gelfand in London, suppose he had won that game and all the other results had been the same.
Yeah, but okay.
Which is quite...
But I don't know. I think that...
It's a lot of ifs,
I think that some other things may have happened. I think Gelfand could also have won the candidates.
Yeah.
Look at his games.
Yeah,
he had to really...
Yeah.
But because against Swittler, you must also say that he was winning afterwards with black.
Yeah.
In that particular... Okay, white was completely winning earlier. And if you look at what Gelfand spoiled in London, if you think about that, he really... I mean, he started with 2 losses early.
Yeah.
But then he had at least 6 winning games.
But now you're ruining my Swittler story.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
But he finished half a point behind Kals. He played very well. So if
but of course that is a very good score. But he was never in the race for the title.
You're right. And but if Mickey Adams gets his scarp as well here, that would be something.
Of course, but I think in general Swittler is much stronger with white.
That's your feeling, that there's a big difference between the white and the black?
He has a very good preparation with white. I wrote about this for the upcoming issue of New in Chess. About his preparation in London. Very interesting preparation.
Yeah.
Some very sharp variations and interesting stuff. But with black he's more vulnerable. Okay, he played rook e8, which is a sensible move because he must try to relieve the pressure somewhat.
Yeah.
On the other hand, is one defender less of the king. Don't know. I don't like black's position because he can just take on a8 and then play knight g4, and it's the same problems again.
Yeah.
So I think that will be quite good. I would be glad to see Mickey Adams doing well here.
And you think that Mickey is the kind of strong player on who such chances are not lost. I mean, this is. He knows how to play these positions very well. That's of course, because he's a very good positional player. Sometimes he overlooks some tactics, but he's positionally very good. But on the other hand, I must say that Swittler's move rook a8 is good because sometimes he wants to play knight a5 with tempo, hitting the bishop on b3. Otherwise, the knight on c6 has no squares at all. Yeah.
So there is a point, but it may not be sufficient to get enough counterplay. Okay. Let's see.
Let's see if Vacher Lagrave, if he already took on b5 or he's preparing it. You never know.
Well, preparing it, he didn't. He finished his development. Let's put it this way.
He finished his development, putting a bishop on e2. Yeah, that's a curious way of looking at it.
Move 23. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and black castled queenside on move 22, which is not an everyday occurrence either.
But actually, white is not in a hurry to do that, yeah, because black has no moves anyway. But on the other hand, the position is still somehow interesting, because if you play a4, then black will probably play b4, and then it's more difficult to get through, because too many lines are closed.
Yeah, probably at some point you must enter with force.
Because you can only win on the queen side with white, not on the king side.
No.
This is why it's not true that with bad play you would win this position, because imagine you play a very bad move like f5, then you lose.
Yeah.
No, but let's say you can probably try to win the position with moves that make no sense. I mean, let's say moves like king c1 and the next move king d1. Then it's possible that white is still winning, but that's not the plan.
But let's say, what would the plan be? I mean, where do you want to enter if you're not going to sacrifice any pieces?
Then, of course, I think that
you think there has to be a sacrifice at some point.
If black keeps it like it is, then the only other plan would be to play c3 and a4. But c3 has certain drawbacks.
Can he still improve the position of his pieces, white?
Yeah, he can put his rook on h1 somewhere, because black can still. I mean, black's problem is that he basically he cannot take on g6. That is simply not possible. He must try to keep this bishop on f7 and pretend that the knight on g6 of white is not so good. So the move for black would be to play bishop e8 here. And it's not so easy to win, no. I play c4. I still believe that bishop takes b5 is a very interesting move. Now it's not possible anymore. Let's see. What else?
Well, in Aronian Kramnik, the bishop has been exchanged.
Aha. I played knight g6 here, yeah. I was thinking about queen h5, but knight g6 may be the best move.
Yeah, so he took on g6 and now he's played d5. And so now the question is, how strong are these two pawns?
Yeah, but here I believe that black can try to hold with queen c4.
That's the move that comes to your fingers automatically.
Yeah. The move like queen c4 with the idea now. I mean, I didn't want to play an endgame where there were still bishops and knights on the board, but this may be just a draw. Although not completely clear.
Could you go back to e6 with the queen? What was that?
Also, yeah, but it's a bit passive, yeah. But here's also some problems, yeah.
But you get the impression that black has sufficient counterplay for a draw. Is that
No,
your
I
feeling?
think that black is still suffering, because if you cannot, I mean, normally you should aim for a rook ending, but it doesn't seem to work out in the
You
simple
think the rook
way.
ending would be problematic?
Yeah, especially because he has this move rook d5. But you may play rook c8 then. I think that still this may be black's best choice. This. And here just to play, or king f8 is also possible. King f2. Now the problem for white also is if you play rook takes c5 here, then you have f6 and you just eliminate all these pawns. But on the other hand, white can keep it with king f2, and then black doesn't have an easy life here. So it is not so easy for black still. I don't know whether knight g6 was better than my suggestion, queen h5. knight g6 actually forces white to take on g6 and play this. But when the pawn is on d6, it's always an unpleasant situation for black.
Well, then an interesting development in Vasily Graf Ding Liren, because the Chinese player has pushed his pawn to c4, and well, making the game even more original. There's now a pawn front storming the white king.
Yeah, but the point is that's why I wanted to take on b5, just to open already the b file. But yeah, it is true that this is probably black's best chance, because anyway.
But it's so dangerous, because if white enters in, well, one way or another, I mean, it's those bishops and that rook on h7, they simply are not there.
Yeah, and here also white can consider to play a4.
Because b4 is no longer an option.
Yeah.
And then, well, you have to check if black can check on d4.
Yeah, let's say king c1.
Yeah, and then you quickly have to go back to protect that pawn, I guess.
Well, you can, I don't know, the idea was, of course, to play something like this.
Oops.
But now I think that queen d3 is probably quite good. Or even rook d1 is good, of course.
Yes,
and because here
just
if queen takes e4, queen takes c3 is very strong. So I don't see what black is doing after a4. Must be a good move, a4, because you have to open the position anyway, and it seems to be the right moment.
Yeah.
He has played a4, yeah. Yeah, looks bad. Very bad. Maybe bishop e8, but on the other hand, yeah, not so nice for black, no.
Well, it's a position that you can, well, almost lose in one move, can't you?
Yeah.
So you have to be very, very careful. So we haven't been with Fichikov and Anand for some time.
Yeah. White manages to get some advantage here. So he took on d6.
And you thought he should take with the pawn, right? Or?
Yeah, I thought that was the idea, to take with the pawn. Because this doesn't look very good for black. Here, white's position looks just better, because he has better pieces. And also his pawn structure is quite good now. This is an active move. And black was forced to give his good knight. And then he's also forced to give the bishop, otherwise the white knight is very good. But now it's a difficult defense for black, because two open files and both are occupied by white. And also slightly better structure, because the black pawns on f5, e5 was somewhat exposed. Rook e7, rook e7. Well, some typical, this would be a comeback position to play, yeah. Aronian also would be very happy to play this with white. White has some advantage. I think that somehow Anand misplayed it, because it looked like he had a good position.
And now he is clearly suffering.
Yeah, I really didn't like knight takes d6. I thought it's good to keep the knight on e4, to play c takes d6. And if he wants to drive it away, okay, you later get the c4 pawn, more lines open, and then it's easier, the defense. This is a tough defense, yeah.
Yeah, so a4 has been played.
Yeah.
And
a4 is always good, it's hanging, and on the other hand, well, it cannot do any harm to move your pawns. No counterplay for black, difficult position.
Well, he's played a6. Well, not to lose that pawn on a7.
So he can move the rook, yeah, but still. If you move the rook to f8, and then try to play rook f6 or something, because you can always play rook a7 hitting it.
Yeah, difficult to...
No, I don't like it for black, no. You can just play h3 here. To make some air for the king. Kamlik played my move, queen c4.
Okay. But it's, yeah, it looks unpleasant to defend this with black going for Anand.
Very difficult, yeah. He's certainly not in good form. Also in this middle game he didn't find the best way to play, and it was the same yesterday. Now, of course, he can still defend if he plays well, but it's not a good start for a tournament, this. No.
Well, I think if he loses this one, then it's definitely the first tournament in his life that he starts with 2 losses. I cannot imagine that has ever happened before.
Let me think. Probably not. No, no, I cannot remember any such occasion. I think once in Dortmund he had a bad start, but not 0 out of 2. No.
Yeah, I think the bad games were spread over the tournament.
Yeah,
but indeed he had a bad start. But 0 out of 2 you would remember in his case.
Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, start that way.
Okay, and Fichikov has made the Lufthole that you suggested.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that is the normal move to play and leave black to answer some questions here.
So if you continue to win all these glasses of wine, Jan, then soon we'll be at the bottle anyway. Then.
You mean I get also some wine for h3?
Probably, yeah. You don't think that qualifies for a glass, right?
Maybe together with the queen c4 of Kamlik.
Yeah. Well, and the Poreka.
No, but that was not. I knew that he was Italian, but and I also know that Poreka is a writer. Yeah.
So.
Maybe Galfand?
Yeah, let's have a look at Boris's game.
I think that he's doing well now. I mean, reasonably well. Let's see, but there's something funny. You see that finally he managed to get e5 in. So we had this position.
Yeah.
He played rook e8, bishop h6. Now bishop h6 may not be the best move. It's for some reason, and it's because there comes a whole operation of moves, 3 pieces being exchanged. So finally e5.
Yeah.
This is of course tricky. Galfand, it looked like he was not aiming for any of this equalizing advances, but now he's doing it. It looks like he solves the problems. Of course, white has the d file, but on the other hand, black's structure is very solid. And I believe this position is just equal.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine big adventures here.
No, black has good control. Only, of course, he would prefer white not to have the d file, but it's not a big deal. There's not enough activity, and the white bishop is not a hero. It's not like in Aronian's game where the bishop was quite strong.
And if you think of improving your position with, let's say, h4, h5, I mean, you don't really achieve something there, or do you? Or
well, I believe that after h4, black may seriously consider to play h5.
And that's then you get
to keep that action restricted.
And then black.
Because I think that if you push the pawn to h5 with white, you may have some progress there. But of course, it's standard. You play h4, black plays h5.
Yeah.
And he still has the same good structure. That it's hard to break.
But it's difficult to see, let's say, chances for either side to really improve on this.
I don't see it. No. I think all the pieces, let's say black's pieces are quite well positioned. And the knight on b6 is good. It keeps the d7 square.
Yeah.
It's close as the b file. White cannot push the knight away with a4, a5 because the rook on e5 is there. On the other hand, since black has all his pieces on the white squares, he cannot do much either.
Yeah.
So this position is, of course, it's an interesting struggle, and it was interesting to see how black, after three exchanges of minor pieces, managed to get e5 in, that suddenly he solves his problems. It's typical Galfond way of a clear, clean calculation.
Yeah, and doing everything in a clean manner.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should look at a less balanced game than Adams Svikler. Let's see if they made any. So
Well,
the rooks have been exchanged.
And then he played his move Queen F3. And he clearly has the idea now to play either Knight F5 or Knight G4. This is what I said. Yeah, he had this idea of Knight A5.
That's the tempo that he.
Yeah, not only tempo but also doing something with his knight. That is also important here.
And now the question is.
He will probably keep his bishop on to play bishop A2. This position. He must keep his bishop, I believe, on the long diagonal, this typical Ruy Lopez diagonal. But black now can try to get some counterplay with B4. Although I still believe that it should be very good for white, somehow. Because as, for example, this move Knight F5 here. No, not maybe. Yeah, it's possible here. Yeah, it's true. It's possible.
Yeah.
Because you cannot take on E4. And this is some terrible threats.
What are the threats here?
Bishop takes H6 is the threat. And Queen G3. Or immediately Queen G3.
Yeah, and you have a problem with your king.
Yeah, that is of course a typical assault in this type of positions.
Yes.
So here black has to try to defend in some sort of way. I wonder how he's doing that, was going to do that. And I'm still thinking about bishop A2. Probably he's thinking about other moves as well, maybe bishop C2, just to give the e-pawn extra protection. This is also possible.
Well, which gives us some time to go back to Verschela Graf Dingy Ren.
Yes.
And see who is making progress there and why.
He played King C7.
With the idea.
I don't know. No, I know. Yeah, he wants after A takes B5. It's very tactical. A takes B, rook takes B5, and Queen D4 check. And now you don't have a good square for the king. Let's probably play King E1. And then he can try to play a move like Rook A8 to get some counterplay with his remaining pieces.
Yeah.
Some counterplay, yeah. Probably not enough. I think that here white can just play very simple King F1.
And if you check, then you go to G2.
Yeah. Maybe he wants to play something like Rook A2, I don't know. It's still a sharp game, but black should be prepared to give his bishop on F8 at some point, I believe. Because otherwise you don't get out. Some counterplay, but on the other hand, King C2 has clearly the aim to vacate the square, the B8 or A8 for the rook.
Well, and on the other hand, I say that it doesn't seem like Vichigov is making much progress against Anand. They exchanged queens, which...
Let's see it.
What do you think? Is that a wise decision if you have such pleasant pressure to...
It depends on the exact way it is done. Yeah.
And what is left.
Yeah. He played Queen D5. No, I wouldn't play that. No. No. I think that's not really necessary to play that. That is a relief for black.
Yes, because it wasn't white's queen better than black's queen.
For example, this position, I liked h3, of course, that was quite nice. But imagine, you play a move like queen c3. Just with different ideas. One of the ideas is to play, because black has no counterplay, and to play c6 is one of the ideas.
Yeah.
To push c6 and then to move the queen to c5, and then to see what black is doing.
You mean that with the queen exchange you're rushing things that you don't need to rush?
Yeah, well, I mean, look what happens. He comes immediately with his king, and he can centralize the king with black. Now, the problem for white here is that his king is not as centralized as black's king. That's the main problem. I mean, if white's king was on c4, it was justified, yeah. Because then then it's very good to exchange queens, but since black can centralize his king immediately, well, white's king is still away from the board, then he basically he's solving his problems. I mean, I would be very surprised if maybe he can try to play c6, because here there's a positional threat that black has. Here, if he's moved, then he can move his king to e6 and rook to d7. So a possibility for white could be to play c6 himself. And after king e6 to move back with the rook, let's say to d2. Now at least you have prevented rook d7. But on the other hand, let's say you play a move like a5 now. And the idea of black is to move the rook to c6 to a6, and then white is not better.
Well, you may get a problem with your c6 pawn, I guess.
Yeah, then it's not better anymore. So I believe that white actually misplayed it. I really don't like queen d5, queen c3, queen c2. There's all sorts of moves here. I understand sometimes, you know, position where you cannot have, let's say, clear ways to strengthen your position, then you think, okay, let's change queens. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the right decision. This is the problem. Here, of course, white is probably thinking, well, what to do? I mean, I have my rook on b7, other pieces are good, but he can maneuver with his queen without any problem with white here. Just queen c3 looks very nice, actually. And then c6. So actually, I think that Fitjukov missed his chance here, and now it's petering out to a draw, probably.
But still, it's, I mean, king f7 is not that difficult to see, is it?
You mean, no.
No.
Does he want to play f4 maybe? Let's try that move.
I mean, this is quite different from the nice position that he had.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think after f4, I think king f6 is good enough.
But indeed, he's played f4, Jan.
Aha, he played it. Yeah,
yes.
That was the idea, but still, no. Not really impressed, no. g6 or king f6, two moves. Now g6 not so good. King f6 should be the move here. On the other hand, he can also take on f4, I see now. But that may be a bit... It's also possible.
Just take.
The rook takes f4, f5, I believe. King g6. Rook takes f4, and now rook. Well, it's not so easy for black this now. I think that probably, yeah, f4 was then his idea, of course, but no. I think king f6 should be the right way to play.
Yeah.
Let's see whether he played that.
Okay, well, we can come back here, but maybe we should go to Adam's Victor for a moment.
Yeah.
because there apparently was another idea. Instead of retreating the bishop, white could also pin the
Oh,
knight.
I didn't think of that. Yeah, true. Yeah.
And
yeah, that is true. That is
well, let's say unclear how good that is.
well, actually, the rook is not very active on e1, so why not to play rook a1? But of course, there are tactics now. Yeah. Black played rook a6, still pinned the knight, so he still has an extra move.
And
The extra move is knight g4.
And then if black exchanges on g4, I guess you take back with the pawn to keep...
Yeah, of course, because that is very likely that you do that, and then to keep the strong pressure, there's also... Yeah, then you have a threat of bishop takes d5 simply. So I think that if you, let's say black, if he has to play some move like c6, it looks difficult to defend, very difficult. But he probably has to take on g4 and then play c6. That's what I believe is the only way to play. But I don't like it. I think that white has a clear edge in different ways, just the position.
Yeah, and you think, you have to take the bishop or the knight on g4. I mean, you cannot tolerate that.
No, because if first of all d5 is hanging.
Yeah.
If you play c6 immediately, then knight takes f6, and bishop takes h6 is coming. So there's very little to do. Yeah. And if you take on g4, h takes g4 is also unpleasant. Yeah, sure.
Well, it's going to be an exciting.
It's very interesting.
Time trouble phase.
No dull games here, and I saw that Kramnik, he didn't want to play this ending. He played queen c4, but then he played his move queen e6 you suggested, and the idea of the queen e6 is of course to play f6, and he played queen c3, and that is the idea to prevent f6. And now black has also his majority. It's still a bit difficult for black, I would say.
But with, well, precise play, he might manage to defend this.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that black should be holding, but white is still.
It's not plain sailing. I mean, he has to be careful.
Yeah, and I think that he cannot. Let's say the a2 pawn he cannot take. So a3 is a useful move to have this square on h2 for the king, and black probably has to push a5 now. But it's true that black should be able to hold the position, but not so easy.
And the times, well, Aronian, he still has a lot of time, 42 minutes, but Kramnik is down to 13 minutes, which, well, with the increment need not be any problem, but...
In general, if you have an increment, it becomes problematic if you have 5 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Before that you always have quite some time.
Yeah.
So Ding Liren against, that actually happened. Yeah, that's what we thought would happen.
But it's...
This is the position we had, and I suggested King F1.
Yeah.
That's also the move Rook B1.
And in fact, let's say the utter passivity of the two bishops and the rook. I mean, they only felt more. I mean, the further we get.
Yeah, because it's only one pawn now for black. So it's very little.
You just tuck away your king on g2 and then.
Yeah, I think that actually that should be an easy win for white. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see any play by black. Yeah. No, I think Rook B1 is actually the simplest move because there's just no counterplay.
Well, if you rook a2, I guess you want to.
Let's move, yeah, rook b1. I would say rook b1 is the best. Rook a2, c3. Queen d2, king f1. And nothing is happening there.
You think that is simpler than your original plan of king f1?
Yeah, because I think because I'm not sure about bishop e8 and bishop c6. And that is some counterplay for black, but I think if you play rook b1 immediately, black is probably not going to play bishop e8 because that knight f8 is really a problem. And then threatening both h7 and e6. Although these pieces are very bad, it's not sometimes not so bad to take them off, to be a rook and a bishop up.
Yeah. So let's see, if we make a quick round before we leave. So Adams, Mickey is still, well, Zwickler is still thinking, after, although he doesn't seem to have much choice. Gelfand is doing.
Gelfand played queen a3, looks like a very active move, but
but that should be.
The king will probably go back at some. The queen will go back at some point.
Yeah. And Vijikov, Anand, they. Yeah, that it seems clear that.
It's actually interesting because after queen a3. Probably, that's a move repetition. If white in this position would play queen h6, threatening rook h4, so you have no time to pick up this a or c pawn, you play queen f8 back. And that could be a draw already then.
Yeah, well, which is maybe not a result either of them is opposed to.
Yeah.
So, but I think we are briefly going to leave you for a short break, and then we will be back for the time trouble phase of the second round of the Alekhine Memorial. Important decisions have to be taken, and we're curious about the outcome of a couple of games. So stay with us or return with us in a couple of minutes' time. And welcome back to Paris, welcome back to the second round of the Alekhine Memorial, where we are entering the time trouble hour, the hour before the moments before the first time control. And a couple of games are in crisis or close to crisis, so every reason to follow this hour. My name is Dekian ten Geuzendam. I'm the editor of New in Chess, and with me is my colleague and good friend Jan Timman. Welcome back, Jan.
Yeah, it's getting very exciting now.
Yeah, which is the game that you are particularly curious about at the moment?
Well, I think that the game that attracts most attention now is the game that Adams plays against Zwickler, because he had some really nice tactical ideas that helped him to win a pawn, and seems that black is in great trouble. Let's look. So what happens? We saw this, that he pinned the knight on a5.
Yes.
And black played bishop b7, so that was still possible, yeah, because I thought it was not possible, but he somehow can...
Because you believe that he absolutely had to exchange the knight on
no,
g4.
but the point is this, I mean, after knight takes f6, he has, for the moment, rook takes f6. And then the queen on f3 is hanging. There are a lot of tactics. So white played for a different idea, and quite a nice idea. The problem for black is, of course, that e5 is hanging, but he didn't want to take it immediately. He took on d5. And now, knight takes d5 was forced. E takes d, and here well, e5 is hanging, it's very difficult to protect that, but he took on d5, and now knight takes e5, and he cannot go for this endgame with bishop takes f3, because knight takes d7, and white is a solid pawn up.
Mm-hmm.
So he played queen.
And the knight will not be lost. I mean, it will safely return
well,
from the front.
The knight is not in any trouble at all, but also black has problems because he has the c5 square, and a great majority on the queen side. So try to get some counterplay, black has to keep queens on the board.
Yes.
He does this with queen e6, and now white is thinking about the position, and he's thinking how to protect the knight on e5. And he can do this with different queen moves. The most obvious move would be to play queen f5 here, because if you play queen f5, you aim for the same type of endgame, and black still has to untangle his pieces on the a file. He has no, well, I don't know. I think queen f5 is the simplest solution.
Because it also looks as if queen...
He played it, yeah.
He played queen f5,
yeah.
Okay, good.
So now black is thinking, and so he's actually faced with the same problems as before. He has to play some move. Yeah, what shall I suggest? It's very difficult. He's a pawn down, and he still has some problems to solve. So actually white is winning. This is quite clear. The position should just be winning for white.
Yeah, you mean because it's not only that he is a pawn up, but in fact his position is still slightly better.
Yeah, he's still.
Well.
Yeah, he has a plus pawn. So that is actually basically too much in general. So I believe that in time pressure, we will see that Adams will probably make his second win. There's a draw now between Fresina and Galfand as foreseen.
Yeah,
this move repetition was there. Kramnik is still pressing.
Yeah, so they
let's look at that.
Yeah, well, let's briefly say something about Galfand's game. There was this move repetition that you indicated, and indeed that's what they went for, and probably this is a result that both of them can be satisfied with.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. I think that in general people tend to think that these games are not very interesting, but I believe that this is still of interest. It's still interesting to see how a middle game develops from the opening, how black succeeds to equalize completely, how all the pieces come to the right squares, how you create counterplay, and how you create this balance and how you keep it. And I think Galfand showed this again in an exemplary manner.
Yeah, a clean game from Boris, and well, also from Fresina, but he didn't manage to achieve anything tangible. So that was the first game to finish today, which ended in a draw, which leaves us with 4 more games, and well, not out of disrespect for Fresina and Galfand, but let's say there is more happening in the other games.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they're more interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So
actually, we can have a look at Anand's game, maybe. Yeah, but what shall we do?
Well, maybe
yeah,
they keep surprising us, and some.
No, but it's interesting in this game that white doesn't want to take this bishop on f8.
But some interesting developments there. That the queens have been exchanged. Maybe we should go back to where we left off. Yeah,
we left off here, around here. I said actually rook b1, and he played that. Rook a2 was played, so he doesn't care about his bishop on f8. He would gladly sacrifice it, but white doesn't want to take it. And here in this position, well, of course, black has some counterplay, because he just plays coolly queen e3. And now black must change queens, because queen a7 is threatening mate, and the king is centralized now. And rook e1, And black has two passed pawns, but they're blocked, and yeah, I don't know what he's going to do here. No counterplay, nothing. It's funny that white had the chance to take this bishop on f8, but he's probably not even going to do it soon. He can always do it. Yeah, he can. He just has to enter the position, black's position, yeah. And he yeah, at some moment he will have to take the knight on g6, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe here, I don't know. Because he must, I mean, there's no point in delaying it anymore. But okay, it's obviously a winning position for white, yeah. Because there's no counterplay. I mean, two pawns mean nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what Switzerland did, yeah.
Oh yes, that's...
He found a move that maybe his best chance to fight. He played bishop d6 because we were looking. He wants to attack the e5 knight again, and probably that's the best defense. Yeah. Now Adams has to think how he's going to do this. Yeah, because he. He can either put his knight to g4, or maybe even to f3 is possible. He can change, I don't know whether he wants to change queens or only he wants to let black change queens. On the other hand, if you can also play f4, I don't know. There are many moves here. And there is some counterplay.
If you exchange queens, how will black take back?
If you exchange the queens, he will take back with the bishop.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. He has to do that. And now you have different moves here.
Mm.
Let's say you have a move like knight f3 back. And then probably black has only one move, and that is bishop c8. Otherwise you cannot untangle there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I would suggest a move like knight e4.
So black didn't want to take on g3.
Well, I think that if you take on g3 here, and f take g3, and now you must play bishop here, and now it's very terrible. I think that because you have knight d4 here.
Yeah, and then that knight and rook, they are not very.
No, because the pawns are weak, and this is maybe you can keep that bishop, but also then I believe that knight d4 is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you can just change and play knight f3. I don't know whether he did that. No, he's thinking. 17 minutes for Adams, 14 for Switzerland, 14 moves to make.
And we have another draw, and not unexpectedly Anand and Fichikov.
Yeah.
As you pointed out, that Fichikov he gave away the best part of his advantage by exchanging queens.
Yeah, I also talked with Ganna Sosonko briefly. He also was surprised by this exchange of queens, and he suggested actually an interesting move. Let's go back to this position.
Mm-hmm.
He thought that actually e4 was a good move here, and I believe that is probably true.
Mm-hmm.
I think that e4 is also quite a good idea, yeah. Because even if you want to exchange queens, then you can take with the e-pawn later on, and then it's even more difficult. Mm-hmm. And if black wants to take on e4, queen takes e4 looks also very difficult for black.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that he has a good point here. I suggested queen c3, but I think e4 may be the most powerful move, and then black is really in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think that other players, Karpov or Kramnik, would certainly have played such a move instead of Queen D5, which was harmless. And after what happened, I mean, in the game, they
the pressure was soon gone, and
black could centralize his king. White tried to keep some pressure with f4, but he could simply take it. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Now I see. Yeah, of course he can. The point is, black could take on f4, because if white takes on f5, his check, then his idea is now. I see the idea is to centralize the king even more, to take this and to play king d5. And it may be that Vityukov overlooked this, because the king comes to c6 and black has very nice play here. White rook is driven back and all white's pawns are weak after that.
Yeah.
At least c5 will be taken immediately and black has no problems at all. So this way, since white has to take back on f4, that f4 was actually quite a harmless demonstration. King f6, c6, rook c8. First he protects the c-pawn and then he's going to attack white's c-pawn.
Yeah.
Rook d7, of course, black doesn't take that rook, he plays this. And you get that drawn ending.
Yeah. And if any of you is wondering whether there will be a press conference by one of the players from the first two games that have finished, no, there's not going to be any press conference for the moment. We'll wait for someone to decide a game in his favor, so we can stay with the games that are are still being played, and where exciting things are happening. So important decisions have to be taken in Adams's game against Svitler.
Actually, he took back with his pawn. It's a bit desperate, I must say, because actually that Adams changed queens. That was, of course, that probably his best option. But after f takes e6, yeah, I understand the move, but the black doesn't solve his problems here. Now, I understand that he has slightly better chances to fight with this move.
So what would you suggest?
I would
here?
probably just suggest a move like knight f3 back.
Just go back, and you're threatening all kinds of unpleasant things.
Knight f3 is as the main threat of b4, of course. So I think that bishop.
And another game is over, Jan. Let's have a look.
Oh yeah, Dinglieren lost. Yeah.
So, shall we briefly have a look at the last games
of
there?
course, yeah. We just
because I'm sure that we're going to see a press conference by Maxime Vacher-Lagrave soon, but I don't know how soon. So let's have a look at the final moves.
The final moves were So what I said is true. He finally gave in and he allowed. Now of course you see that Vacher-Lagrave wants to take the bishop on f8, but he wants to take it with his rook, not with his knight, because then he wins more material.
Yeah.
So he had to allow this, and this is truly horrible. Yeah, he had actually quite a nice mate here. Yeah, if you look at the position, if in this position black would take on e2. There is rook b1, b6 check, king c7, and king c5. You see this pawn on e7 is really in the way. And mate is unavoidable. Rook to b7 is mate. Next move. So that was a nice final touch.
In fact, once again highlighting this completely paralyzed king side. What misery for these pieces.
And he played rook d2 check, king e3, rook a2, and now rook b8, b6, and black resigned.
Yeah, because the king walks in, or otherwise he's checkmated immediately on c5.
Yeah, he can win all different ways. This is completely hopeless. Yeah.
So what should we say about this game? Was it a
strange game? Yeah, strange. What can I say? I mean, the only thing I can say is that that Black had a very interesting idea in the opening, and I think that at some moment, after White played very sharp, he must have had good chances to give an exchange and try to play positional, but he didn't play positional. His Bronstein move this way didn't work out, and then he was just completely lost, simply. I mean, that is already has been for quite a long time, and I really don't understand that, because if you play this, if you prepare it even, then this is the worst nightmare you can have, that all these pieces don't come out.
Yeah.
So you have to prevent this at all costs, instead of trying to win one or two more pawns, trying to protect the pawn on e6.
Yeah.
The bishop g8 move was protecting the pawn on e6. Later on he wanted to get rid of that pawn.
Yeah.
And yeah, it simply didn't work.
So
but I think that in general, the idea might be worthwhile.
So it's, well, was it good play on Maxim's part?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I mean, at least he played a real, in a real sharp way, which is good, of course, to see. And after that, I think he finished it well. And of course, it was not so difficult. I mean, it could have been a much more tougher game for him.
Yeah, and well, as for Ding Liren, I mean, this was too experimental today.
Well, actually, the experiment was okay, but I think that later on he lost his way, simply. That's basically what happened.
Yeah, he should have been a bit more careful with the fire he was playing with.
Yes, I mean, I think also he should have been, let's say, not only prepared for moves, but also prepared for IDs. That is the main ID. Yeah, because he had IDs, but he was probably only preparing the moves.
So this leaves us with two games, and there's some quick moves being made in Aronia and Kramnik. So
Kramnik is in time pressure, yeah.
So they're, let me see, we're just getting handed some cookies so that we will survive here. But
okay, let's put them somewhere.
We are more interested in moves right now than cookies.
Okay, well,
so
I don't want a cookie.
But it's, and I think some terrible things happened there, Jan.
Right.
So let's go back where we left off.
Let's see. We're here. Let's see. I said he played a6. He didn't play a5. Didn't want to compromise himself. Now, it's interesting that White is playing for the endgame. And the problem is that Black doesn't want the endgame.
And with good reason.
I think you cannot liberate once you play this endgame. You can never liberate. It takes a long time, because you have to come with your king all the back to e8. You keep, and just the white king walks in, so he must play queen e8. And now it looks really grim for Black. You see, he tried to get some counterplay.
Yeah. And the exchange of queens doesn't really alleviate the problems?
No,